Welcome to Beatsource Tech. My name is Mojaxx and today I'm looking at something which is incredibly niche but also very cool and therefore deserving of our attention. It's the EQ and Crossfader add-on for the Orbit 6 from Union Audio. I am going to keep this short because, let's be honest, it's highly unlikely that this product is for you. I know the $5,900 Orbit 6 mixer has sold very well within its target market, but that still means that 99.99% of you watching this video don't own one. I certainly don't. And if you do want to buy the Orbit EQ Crossfader, not only will you need to own the mixer in the first place, but you'll also need another $1,600 burning a hole in your pocket to buy it with. And those prices are for the black units, by the way. The blue, red and 10-year anniversary gold finishes cost even more. But I do think it's worth covering because this is something we don't see very often, a mixer having optional extra functions added to it. It's by no means a new idea. The old Rain 2016 had a big expander available, as does one of the modern Mojaxx units. And the man behind Union Audio, Andy Rigby-Jones, has form in this area too. The Allen & Heath Zone V6 he designed not only had a crossfader add-on available, but also a dual EQ and a filter. With the Orbit EQ Crossfader, he's taken two of those things and put them into one unit. You get a crossfader, a top quality inner fader mini no less, and dual 4-band isolator EQs. Let's get the basics out of the way first. Like the Orbit, the build quality is simply phenomenal. The thick CNC machined aluminium faceplate is just on a different level to most DJ gear, and the construction is incredibly solid all round. Yes, it is expensive, but it certainly feels expensive too. The sound quality was an incredibly important factor. You've paid so much money for the Orbit itself that of course you don't want to dilute that sound in any way. Well, the EQ Crossfader is simply very transparent, having absolutely minimal impact on the reproduction quality of the mixer itself, and that was reflected in both listening and measurements that I did. The way it connects is pretty interesting. On the Orbit mixer, each channel has a set of stereo direct outputs, and those connect to the equivalent inputs on the EQ Crossfader. To get the signal back into the mixer, you then run a pair of jacks into the master insert on the Orbit 6. There's another stereo pair for running out to a further isolator or other sound processing device. Those are insert jacks, so require special cables. Everything else uses standard balanced or unbalanced jack leads. What does all that mean? Well, if you're running a single EQ Crossfader unit, and you could daisy chain multiples, you'll need at least 8 cables connected between it and the Orbit, as well as the power lead for the EQ Crossfader's DC power brick. Add that on top of all the cables for the inputs and outputs, and it will be enough to give a migraine to anyone who is obsessed with cable management. And to be clear, you will need all 6 channels wired through the EQ Crossfader because it's routing back into the master insert, and therefore any channels not connected to it will no longer come through to the output stage. There's no crossfader assign controls. Channels 1 to 3 wired up on the left of the EQ Crossfader are on the left, and it's vice versa for channels 4 to 6. You could in theory wire it up hamster style or some other combo, but then the EQs will be on the wrong side too, and that could get real confusing real fast. Speaking of the Crossfader, it's an Innofader Mini, always a great choice. On here, Union Audio have managed the curve and cut in nicely, with a sharp cut on one setting and a smooth blend on the other. There's no continuous curve adjustment, but those two modes, plus the option to bypass it, are enough as far as I'm concerned. What I will say is, although the fader itself is very capable when cutting, don't go expecting to be throwing down 3-click flares or autobahns with it. The fader is recessed a little bit into the body, and there's just not a lot of room around it. It's definitely more on here as a mixing tool rather than a scratching one. The other thing about the routing of the EQ Crossfader is that as the master insert goes right to the output stage, it bypasses the existing 3-way isolator on the Orbit. This is no massive loss, you're gaining a pair of 4-way isolators instead, but it came as a surprise to me when I first connected it, so it's worth pointing out here. The final thing I want to mention is that, due to the way this hooks up, I can't really see how you would use it with any other mixer on the market today. I'm sure it will work if you have a Zone V6 knocking about, that also had the direct output, but that's it. This truly is just an accessory for the Orbit 6. The EQ knobs feel great, there's enough room to work them properly, and they have a perfect amount of resistance out of the box and feel just like the ones on the built-in isolator on the mixer. The main channel pots on the Orbit 6 have a very clever damping system, which means they offer a high amount of resistance and will do so pretty much forever. But the pots on here are Alps and have the nicely throwable feel which is needed for an EQ and isolator. At this point, I'll give you a quick audio demo of how the EQ Crossfader performs. So as you can hear, the EQ Xfader is a powerful addition to the Orbit 6. It's definitely not an essential one. For many, there will be enough frequency controls on the mixer itself to make the extra cost unjustified. But I think that's why I like it so much. It takes some features which not everyone will want and puts them into an external unit rather than adding even more size and cost to the base mixer. And that's a concept I love and would like to see more of, not just from Union Audio, but from other brands too. To me, modularity is always cool, and this is a perfect example of that, even if it is just for the rich kids. So there you go, a look at the EQ and Xfader add-on for the Orbit 6 from Union Audio. Sometimes I get midway into the making of a video and I start to wonder, why am I bothering with this? It is an accessory designed for one of the most expensive mixers in the world, and it's something which not every owner of the mixer will even want. Otherwise it would have been part of the original spec. Niche is not a strong enough word, really. But I find it interesting, and I'm confident that enough of you out there watching this are equally as nerdy about mixers as I am and will therefore find it interesting too. At least, I hope so. And there is no doubt that Union Audio's rise as a brand, as it coincides with the ending of the Master Sounds mixer project, is something that the industry as a whole will be watching closely. Unlike Master Sounds, Union Audio are working with different distributors around the world, and so we see them having the potential to make some quite big moves in the future, and that to me is well worth keeping an eye on. In the comments, let us know your thoughts on the Orbit 6 and this new accessory. Do you like the idea of manufacturers offering optional extras for their products, working in this kind of modular fashion, or would you rather have every possible option included straight out of the box? Thank you for watching this episode of Beatsource Tech. I do hope you've enjoyed it or found it useful. If you have, please give the video a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any future videos. I'll see you next time.